have two items of business on the agenda today. The first one will be the election of the Vice Chair. The second one will be to deal with the language categorisation change that is proposed at a school in Trannan. Before we get on to that, though, I've got the normal formalities. Could I have any apologies, please?
Apology from Angela Davis, Chair.
And I also recalled apologies from Sarah Davis and Graham Robson, who are still trying to get into the meeting but haven't been able to at this point. So if they fail, I'd like that recorded.
Sure.
Did somebody say Phil as well, Councillor Phil?
Councillor Phil, because of the nature of this particular paper, was not intended to be here today.
Oh, okay, okay.
But thank you. And now move on to the other two formalities. If anyone has any interest to declare in the items in front of us today, please could they do so now? And then secondly, can I confirm that no one has received a party whip in respect of any of the items on this agenda?
Confirmed.
Thank you. In which case, can I move across to Wynne to take us through the first item of business, which is the election of a Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chair. We've got two nominations from Councillors David Jones and from Councillor Sandra Davis. I'm going to put the voting link in the chat box, which should, if everybody's got their chat box open, please. It should appear there shortly. If that's appeared as a link, which it doesn't seem to have.
It's just saying vote for one candidate only.
Yes, I don't know quite why. Bear with me.
Not your best day, Wynne. Bless you.
It's not a good day at all. I don't quite know why links that normally work are not working.
Certainly not.
It's everything is just deciding to play me up today, but there we are. What else is new?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go on.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'll withdraw my name, and that will help speed up the process.
Wynne, just a query, Wynne. I had been told that there was a nomination for the existing Vice Chair. Did that not materialise?
No, not at all.
Right. Okay.
Wynne, would atmospherics have an issue?
I doubt it. It's just the link which normally would work doesn't seem to want to show up as a hyperlink in the actual chat box, which I'm finding quite frustrating, to be honest with you. But there we are.
To be clear, Wynne, though, have we only got one nomination now?
If Councillor Sandra has now withdrawn, then we only have one nomination, which is Councillor David Jones.
And to be clear, no one has nominated Angela Davis. So
correct.
We just have the one.
You have one nomination only. So
and we're not taking them today. That's correct as well, is it?
Yes, unless somebody wants to put somebody up from the floor.
I haven't spoken to Angela, so no, I haven't better do that from the floor.
No, I think
move David Jones be appointed Chairman.
Yeah. Thank you for that. In light of the lack of nominations for anyone else, I would approve that Councillor David is duly elected as Vice Chair.
Excellent. Thank you. Well done, David.
Congratulations, David.
Thank you very much, Chairman. It's a bit of a surprise that it should happen like that, but that's the way the cookies crumble today. Can I thank Councillor Sandra for making the technical glitch disappear, really, and I think we'll all have to remember that Sandra's done a very honourable thing there. Thank you, Sandra, and thank everyone for supporting me.
Thank you, David.
Congratulations, David. Thank you.
And can I put on record my thanks to Angela, who's been Vice Chair for the last 2 years, for bringing a very different perspective to the role and significant support. So without more ado, am I inviting Emma or Marianne to put forward the presentation on the proposal for Dyffryn Trannon?
Thanks, Councillor Pete. I'll ask Marianne to do so, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. It's all yours.
Okay, thank you. So Ysgol Dyffryn Trannon is a dual-stream primary school situated in the village of Trefeglwys in the Llanidloes catchment. As you can see from the paperwork, there are well, at the time of writing, there were 109 pupils in the school, with only 12 of them in the English stream and no pupils in the reception or year 1. 97 pupils, therefore, attend the school and attend the Welsh stream at the school. We have been in discussions with Ysgol Dyffryn Trannon governors over a number of years, concerned really about the sustainability of the English stream there. And then we decided, as part of the transformation process, aligned with the ambition to increase the number of Welsh medium speakers and improve access to Welsh medium education across the county, to proceed to formal consultation. So this took place earlier this year. And as you can see, 71 respondents completed the response form. 9 written responses were received, including response from Estyn. You will see in the vast paperwork there are a number of issues raised, and you can also see the council's response to those issues. So I think that generally summarises where we are with the whole process, and happy to take any questions. And my colleagues here here to support as well.
Thank you for that. I'll take questions first from Councillor Sandra, who I know is only going to be with us for a short time today. So if you would like to start.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did put it in the chat and I will repeat if I may. Bearing in mind the amount of youngsters that are at the lower end of the school that are wishing to be taught through the medium of English, we don't know if there will be any starting on what precaution or prevention there is for youngsters who wish to be taught through the medium of English to start this September, because it's not going to start until next year. Is that right, Marianne?
Yes, so it's a regulated alteration that'll come in on a phased basis, so starting in September 2022. Currently, as of today, the school has 89 pupils in the Welsh stream and 15 in the English stream. And I don't have any information from admissions as to whether anybody's applied to the English stream from September. Does that answer your question?
That does, thank you. And bearing that in mind then, so there will be the 3 years in the bottom end of the school where there will be no English medium children. So will that then speed up the process of it becoming a Welsh medium school?
It depends really on how those numbers pan out. So if those pupils are currently in the English stream wish to remain in the English stream, we will honour that until the time that they leave the primary school. However, should any of those pupils wish to transfer into the Welsh stream over time, we would then provide additional support to those pupils as well.
Thank you. I'm just aware of the cost of 12 youngsters being taught from the medium of English in primarily a Welsh medium school, and their well-being basically being immersed through the language, through Welsh language, and then they'll be sort of isolated in a sense, but yet being taught together through the whole spectrum of the school age. And that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sandra. Leading on from that, if we end up with no pupils coming into the English stream this coming September, is it possible to move to Welsh only for, I think it would be years 1, 2 and 3, or would we still be accepting English speaking, English stream pupils into those years if they wish to transfer in?
No, I think if the proposal is approved, we would stick with the regulated alteration that we've put out there. So we would move on a phased basis from 2022. So we wouldn't accept any into the English stream from then on.
Okay, thank you.
Into the English stream to reception from then on. Sorry.
Yeah. Margaret.
Unmute.
Margaret, you haven't come off mute.
I have now, sorry. I have to say, it's following on from Sandra's comment. If you look at the numbers, I mean, by September 25, I think you've probably got 1, or is it 2 children in English unit. Now, I just want to know what would the plans will be for that, because it is not right for those children. And I'm not arguing against what's happening, but I'm looking at those children, and I do think this is of grave concern for those children.
I'll come back in there. I don't know, Delis, do you want to come in afterwards as well? Just to say, we would need to honour, if a parent has chosen the English stream for their children, because the School of Frinchanon is a dual stream school, then we would need to honour that right through to the end of their education. However, the school will be aware that there are extremely low numbers in these year groups, and I would expect the school to be working with the parents to discuss whether it would be more appropriate for them to join the Welsh stream with support. So I think it would be a matter for the school then.
Sorry, can I butt in quickly, Chair? I have an email of Graham Robeson and Zara. They're trying to get in, having problems. I've just said what you've been trying to do, and then that you yourself, Wyn, are trying to send separate invites. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Open.
Chairman, can I come in on that point as well, please?
Yeah.
I just wondered if you do have a student that is an English speaker and doesn't want to join the Welsh speaking, if this is approved, obviously, would there be any transport available to the nearest English speaking primary?
Right, so transport, we would hope that every child in the area would choose.
Agreed, but then you could have an incoming family that will refuse it.
We would first of all seek to provide them with trochi, so that's the immersion support, in order for them to be able to attend the School of Frinchanon. However, parents can choose whichever school they want, and obviously then if there's a place in that school, they can have that place. Transport is another matter, because the School of Frinchanon would be the nearest school for pupils. Should it be the pupils' nearest school, then we would only transport to a School of Frinchanon. So any parent who lives in, say, Trefeglwys, who wish to have an English medium education could apply to whichever of the other 3 schools in the catchment. And remember, there are another 3 English medium schools in the catchment. And should they, if they get the place, that will be fine. But however, we wouldn't be providing the transport. They'd have to make their own arrangements to attend those schools.
That will be made clear to them is what I think needs to happen. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Lucy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it would be helpful to know, as part of the consultation, how many pupils are moving into the school for the Welsh language stream, and how many English-speaking pupils are moving out of the catchment to get an English stream education in another school. Do you have that information?
We do have that information, but not to hand, I'm afraid, Councillor Roberts. So if I can come back to you with that, then I can do so.
Okay, will that be included in the report to Cabinet?
Yes, we can include it after this meeting. Yeah.
Thank you both for that. Wynne, can you include that as a recommendation from Scrutiny that that information should be available to Cabinet, just so that it is fully recorded? Councillor Jake.
Thank you, Pete. Just looking at the report itself and some of the reasons cited for making the proposal today, I note that having low English numbers is challenging both for those pupils, but also from a teaching point of view. But one of the cited reasons is that more pupils would be fluent in both Welsh and English equally. And I wondered whether this was a realistic reason or is it a more generic reason, because I am struggling to see whichever way this scenario played, where the equal comes in for all those pupils. So a little bit more explanation. It might be something I'm not understanding about how languages the students are taught through the stream system.
Okay, I'll start, but I'll ask Hugh Foster Evans to come in here as well. So warning Hugh. Okay, just to say that when in a Welsh medium education, be it that a Welsh medium school or be it Welsh medium stream, pupils achieve fluency in both languages. So it's not, don't go into a Welsh medium stream or school and just come out as a monoglot. You have both languages. However, it's not the same in an English medium school or even an English medium stream, where pupils tend to leave school only with an ability to speak fluently in English. So the whole intention, the ambition, the aspiration of Welsh Government and the Council is that all pupils become fully bilingual by the time they leave school, with all the benefits that can bring and all the added, skills, etc., that come with being bilingual. I don't know, Hugh, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And apologies, for some reason I can't get my camera to work. That's my contribution to the tech problems today. But yes, just to echo what Marianne has said, essentially in the Welsh medium streams or in a Welsh medium school, English is taught effectively as a first language, as it would in an English medium school. Welsh, of course, is taught as a first language in a Welsh medium school or in a Welsh medium stream, but normally as a second language in an English medium school. That means that in the Welsh medium stream and the Welsh medium school, you will have learners who are effectively developing both languages at the same pace, and therefore they end up being fluently bilingual by the end of their journey through the schools. So it is the subtle difference, if you like, between the way that Welsh is presented in an English medium school and how English is presented in the Welsh medium school that makes the difference there. Diolch.
Thank you both. Do you want any further clarity on that, Jake?
No, that was really helpful. I was struggling with how it would work, but it does seem that the two aren't comparable. So that's really, really helpful. Thank you.
Councillor Bryn.
Yeah, diolch yn iawn. Just isio, ydy pawb yn clywed y cyfieithiad?
There is translation. For those wanting translation, click on the interpretation button, please, and go and click on English.
Okay, yeah. Diolch yn iawn. O'n I just isio croesawu'r cynnig yma sy'n mynd ger bron y cabinet. Mae'n meddwl bod yn hen bryd ac mae eisiau symud ymlaen efo ysgolion eraill yn yr un modd. A jyst yn licio diolch i'r cynghorydd Jake am y cwestiwn ac am yr atebion clir gan Marian a Hugh Foster Evans, achos mae hwnna'n broblem yn y sir ac yn bellach bod y dealltwriaeth o beth ydy addysg ddwyieithog ddim yn eglur. Di'r termau addysg cyfrwng Cymraeg ac addysg cyfrwng Saesneg, maen nhw'n rhoi'r argraff bod nhw'n gyfartal, ond does dim cyfatebiaeth. dyn ni'n gwybod ers talwm bod ni'n deilliant dwyieithog sy'n dod o addysg cyfrwng Cymraeg a deilliant uniau Saesneg sy'n dod o addysg cyfrwng Saesneg. A mae llawer iawn gwell gan ni os ni'n cyfeirio at addysg cyfrwng Saesneg ac addysg ddwyieithog, neu addysg cyfrwng Cymraeg gyda deilliant ddwyieithog. Ond ie, dim mwy gen i ychwanegu, ond diolch yn fawr iawn i chi am eich gwaith ac yn croesawu'r gobeithio penderfyniad cadarnhaol yn arw iawn.
Thanks, Bryn. Is there a specific question you wanted to ask of officers?
Na, dim mwy, dim diolch.
Thank you. Councillor Amanda?
Thank you, Chair. It's just a general question. Sorry, I'm new to this committee and I'm not familiar with all of the education policies that surround this. So it's just following the transport query, really. If there was a child, for example, in my patch where the nearest school would be English stream, would they be entitled to free transport to the Welsh stream school in Welshpool? And so are you saying that for this scenario though, because of the immersion plan, if there's a child in this area whose nearest school is this school, but they wish to go to an English stream that's not their nearest school, they wouldn't be entitled to free school transport. Is that my correct understanding? Is that the correct understanding of the transport policy?
That's correct.
Oh, sorry. Let me just turn translation off because I can't hear. Is that right? Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. It's
correct.
Correct.
Okay. Diolch yn fawr.
Okay, did you get an answer there? Did you hear an answer?
Yes, thank you, Pete.
Okay, I've just, Marianne, I don't know whether it's just me, but your responses have come through quite quietly.
Oh, not like me. Okay. It could be
That's
Zoom.
okay. It's okay now. I have no idea what happened there. Thank you for that. Margaret, did you wish to make another contribution?
Yes, please. It's really following on from Councillor Jake asking for clarification on something. It's the document, I'm sure, has to be presented, etc., in the way it is. I'm sure there's certain things are laid down, but it's sometimes I don't know that it's explaining clearly enough. But to improve educational provision is one of the things, page 7 or something. And one of the things to improve educational provision is opportunities to develop a broader curriculum to meet the needs of pupils. Now, I understand, I think, what that means in the situation if it becomes a Welsh medium school. But if I was linked to the school and I was a member of staff at the moment, I think I'd feel quite upset by that, because to me it's saying we're not offering a broad curriculum, and that's not what it's saying. It's just it's sort of putting the case for a Welsh medium school. It's the sort of thing that I find there's a number of things like that I personally didn't feel was an adequate explanation.
What do you feel was missing, Margaret, specifically?
I think that a link to how why a Welsh medium school will improve that, will allow that a broader curriculum for those pupils in some way because of that. I don't think it's the way it's written. It suggests that it isn't adequate at the moment, and therefore you know, making it a Welsh medium school will make it adequate. And I just don't feel, I'd have to think about how to rewrite it, but I don't particularly think those sorts of comments are going to be helpful to somebody who's doesn't have a full understanding of what Welsh medium education offers.
Can I bring Lynette in at this point?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for those comments, Margaret. I think the issue here is, in this particular case, is the fact that there are small numbers in the English stream. It's the numbers more than anything, which inhibits the group work, collaboration. I know that you understand all of that, essential for the literacy skills, social skills, interpersonal skills, working on projects with larger number of children's in your pupils in your own peer group, broadening your experience across the phases. We know in this instance here we have a school where there's a cross phase working at the moment. What I mean by that is foundation phase and key stage 2 in the English stream in the same classroom for many activities. And so the provision is more challenging when you have a smaller stream. And in terms of the foundation phase, which I know you know well, the statutory outdoor provision required and having those older pupils in the same class. And it's about those more pupils then having the opportunity to be bilingual, and the way that the benefits that it brings in the broader context there as well, greater opportunities, etc., with both languages. So take on board really what you said about the explanation in there, but that's the meaning behind it. And I can understand how, you know, you say if without explanation, staff morale can be affected, but this is really about the fact that the small numbers in the English stream inhibit that, as I say, collaboration, group work, and again about that broadening the language experience with the 2 languages there. So thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come in to say that and explain that within the
Thanks, Lynette.
document.
I'm going to bring you back in a minute, Jake, but I'm going to add one of my questions in at this point, which is to focus around TROCI and also TROCI-like support for parents. We discussed this quite a bit when we were looking at Brohadgan, and in that context there was quite large community support networks that could be tapped into to facilitate Welsh language support to parents as well as to pupils. So I'm interested now, we're looking at a much more dispersed population. How will you be supporting monoglot English speaking parents to enable them to be fully involved in their child's education within the context of Treglwys?
Prynhawn, if I can come in there, it's Delith, Chair. Thank you.
By all means, Delith, thank you.
Can I just add one point to the previous question as well by Margaret, and thank you for asking for clarification, Margaret. When we're saying here about improving provision, we're also probably making links to things like Successful Futures or new curriculum, where the aim is to establish systematic links between schools and outside agencies like famous authors, poets, etc. We want it to be rich, so we get the rich and, you know, authentic learning. So I guess with it being one, well, like a Welsh medium school, there would be more opportunities now for all the children to access that and work with things like Mudiad, Mentor Iaith and the Urdd and things coming in as well. And I guess all of this is related to the school ethos, that the ethos will be predominantly Welsh and all staff and pupils will speak Welsh and use it continuously. And then that, of course, impacts on standards and on the quality of the provision. To come on to your question, Chair, about TROCI, the immersion programme, yes, if parents would move into the area from non-Welsh speaking school, etc., we would, as an authority, provide immersion provision for these children. We would also offer it to the English medium pupils that are in different Rhannon, should they or should the parents rethink and consider all the advantages of Welsh medium education. At the moment, we've trialled trochi provision through online due to COVID, virtual provision, and it's been successful. But our aim is to develop immersion centres so that the children access immense trochi, real immersion in the Welsh language. With regards to parents, there are courses, Aberystwyth University offer courses and lessons for parents in the community. And again, we would make sure that that is accessible and well communicated with community and parents. There are great apps and things for parents, and these have been well accessed during the lockdown. And RAG and all these different agencies have a network of support for parents. And I guess it's the role of the school as well to support the parents. And through the Siarter Iaith, I'm sure you've heard of the Siarter Iaith, where the Welsh Government aspiration is for 1 million Welsh speakers. We do include this as one of the main targets for any accreditation, is that they are promoting the access to Welsh lessons in the community. And actually the pupils from a school are heavily involved in promoting those activities. I hope I've answered your question, but sorry, I deviated back to the last remark. Diolch yn fawr.
That's fine. Clarity is what we want, and you've given some clarity to both questions there. Councillor Jake.
Thanks. That was really helpful, and this isn't to detract, I don't think, from the recommendation from my point of view. It's perhaps about how it might be stylistic about how these reports are brought forward, because I think something is being lost in the report writing language, which seems to be hitting, I don't know, high-level sound bites, statements of fact, obvious night follows day type things. And what in my mind was missing on the point I raised before and the point that Margaret's picked on there is some plain language, perhaps talking a bit more in the manner that we might talk when we're meeting someone face to face and explaining things. So when I had the explanation before and when Margaret's had her explanation, the evidence was there, but the evidence hasn't always been clear to see in the report, in my view, in a very simple way to find it. So when you explained it, it basically said, because you've got small numbers of English people, students in the class, it made things more difficult by doing this, this and this. And if we were to have groups of bilingual students, then size wouldn't get in the way. We can do things. And sometimes I think if we just shift the way we're speaking in these reports, it will help us enormously, and it will help the communication to the wider community as well. So it'd be far more transparent. So I'm all for it, but I just think we can just adjust how we're speaking through the report. It would help.
Thanks for that comment, Jake. Does anyone else have any further observations on the report in front of us?
Pete, just on the finance, it was financial saving 122k, 122k, which is fine. But again, that was just a figure plucked from somewhere.
Could you I think what Margaret is asking for is an expansion on where the financial savings will actually be coming from and the time frame in which they will be realised.
Okay, the savings have been modelled by our finance, by the school's finance team anyway, and it's looking forward, it's projecting forward, looking at the numbers of pupils that would, as the school transitions to become fully Welsh medium, what are the numbers of pupils there? And then that is really run through the funding formula. So it's as simple as that, really. So the funding formula, pupil numbers, projections, and that's obviously it's an estimated at this stage, isn't it? Because obviously we don't know the actual pupil numbers, but it is just run through the funding formula.
Okay, so in essence, the bulk of the savings are actually the move to a single stream. So you take out the elements of the funding formula that cope with the bilingualism. In this case, the additional costs of running an English stream for a small number of pupils.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah.
Okay, so that will come through over time, and it will be realised over time as you don't have to replace books as you move up through each of the year groups.
Yeah, it'll take time to see through that 122k estimate, but that is it. And in essence, this is what's happening here, isn't it? We're moving from a dual stream school where the streams are funded separately to a single stream school where we're funding it as one school, and that's where the saving comes in.
I think it would be helpful for us as and when we look at future proposals. Where it is a school closure, it is fairly easy to see that the saving kicks in when the school closes. But where we are looking at progressive mergers or transitions, it's very easy to have a nice headline figure that isn't realised for 10 or 15 years. So could we perhaps, just as Councillor Lucy suggested, we should have more figures about pupil movement? Could I suggest in future reports that we have a financial plan showing when these savings are likely to kick in? Obviously there will be an element of modelling to that, but it is still useful. Okay, does anyone have any other questions surrounding this? Otherwise, I'll go back to my final one, which is another one that came from Mahuntleth, which is Lucy, before I come in. Councillor Lucy? You're having problems coming off mute if you're trying to come in.
Sorry about that. It was just to emphasise what I put in the chat, that it came across in the report that there were a number of people who were concerned about the fact that in the past, obviously, some pupils had transferred from the Welsh stream back to the English stream if they felt they were struggling. And I thought that it might be helpful to really emphasise the fact that there would be extra support put in place to support those pupils, and so they shouldn't really need to move to have to move back to a different stream. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And Margaret?
It sort of links with that, because looking at ALN and what was in the report on ALN, and children with two languages, do we do any research, or how do we look at this within the county so that we've got figures to support the fact that children who have specific needs are not disadvantaged, which they shouldn't be, by learning through the medium of Welsh, if Welsh is not their first language? Are we keeping, what is the sort of capacity to research this within the county or wider than the county? Because I think it's quite an important issue, and it's one that some parents perhaps need more information about, because it shouldn't impact. It should be absolutely that children should be supported in their Welsh language, and it shouldn't be an issue. But I just think we could have some more data and information around that from a Powys perspective and then a wider perspective.
I think, Margaret,
not particularly in this report, but I do think it's an issue when we're looking.
Thank you for that contribution, Margaret. I'm going to add my question in at this point because it was also related to ALN. But so we don't lose Margaret's comments, Wyn, could you take a note that when we come to looking at the ALN provision, we focus at least in part of our time on the changes to the provision through the medium of Welsh rather than just looking at ALN in general, so that we are comfortable that the ALN stream of the transformation is taking into account Welsh, but not just Welsh. We have a number of other minority languages within the county, and we need to be aware that we are looking at provision for those languages as well as our two main languages. My comment is linked to that and probably is quite a solid yes, is that with the Mahuntleth proposal, there was a lot of concern around ALN and whether we would be able to provide that support. What plans do you have to support ALN through the medium of Welsh within this school? And is it just a case of needing to expand the existing provision?
Can I refer the comment back to Dennis, if that's all right, as a challenge advisor?
Yes, dim problem, Marianne. Yes, well, as you know, with the new Act coming in September, it's clearly defined there that the ALN will be the responsibility of the school, and very low numbers with ALN pupils in this school. And of course, they will provide either universal provision, which at the end of the day is what we all want, is effective teaching and learning for the pupils. And then, of course, the ones with specific needs or that will need the IEP to be transferred to IDP will get that individual support as part of the provision in school, or there will be networking with outside agencies, as happens in most of our schools. So I guess the provision will be the responsibility of the school and using the local authority there for additional support should a child need that through the medium of Welsh. But I've got all confidence in the school that they will provide the best ALN provision for the pupils.
I think obviously we're going to be looking at ALN in quite some detail over the coming months as the provision changes move forward. And I think, Lynette, in one of our meetings, we need to focus in on ALN and working out who needs to come before us to talk about that, and whether we want to do it in a full session or whether we want to set up some specific working groups. I've got Michael wanting to come in, but Lynette, I think you want to respond to that point, so I'll bring you in now.
Thank you, Councillor Pete. Yes, I just wanted to say and reiterate what Dal has said there. It will be the schools to work with the local authority if there are specific needs, or other agencies looking to develop our multi-agency working. So strategically within the ALN transformation work stream, the requirements for the young people and children with additional learning needs who are in Welsh schools as part and parcel of our transformation work stream for ALN. So it is a major part, and I think we are looking to enhance that provision going forward as a local authority as well.
Thank you. Margaret, you still have your hand up. Do you want to come back in? Okay, in which case, Michael, floor is yours.
Well, I won't take too much of the floor, I can assure you, Chair. I may be stating the obvious here, but it's the pupils' learning experience through their school life that's what matters. And I would suggest that whatever language the pupils are best able to speak, that the provision of robust ALN is absolutely crucial for them to progress through school and indeed then have fulfilled and worthwhile lives thereafter. I'm obliged, Chairman.
Thank you, Michael. In which case, I have no further questions. I'm not seeing any further hands. I'm quite minded from listening to the tone of the feedback that's coming from members to say that we as a committee don't appear to have any major concerns about this proposal. When they come forward to Cabinet, I would say I think the general consensus of the committee is that one of support for the proposal, and that the case has been made in the documentation for the change. Marianne, do you have anything finally you want to say at this point? Otherwise, I'll extend my thanks.
Nothing apart from thanks to you for very constructive feedback today. So we'll take it on your points and reflect in the next round of papers, hopefully.
Thank you very much for that. So just in summary, the recommendation, I mean, the response coming forward from Scrutiny will be that there are two small issues around data and reporting that we'll be reporting back as recommendations. If they can be incorporated into the Cabinet paper, that would be appreciated. But we would be looking for those to be elements of any future consultation coming back to us. And with that, I would thank all officers for your time and your contribution, and thank committee members for their contribution. And we'll move on to the final item of our business, which is the forward work programme, which Wim will take us through, because I am very aware and I am slightly remiss in not welcoming a significant number of new members to the committee this time. Public may not be aware, but this committee used to be 9 councillors and 4 lay members. We changed at the last AGM so that committees of 13 would be 13 councillors plus lay members. So I have a number of new members today and a number of members that are new due to changes in political groups representation as well. So I welcome all of those. Wyn, would you like to take us through the next couple of months of what is planned as it stands at the moment?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, it's set out on the agenda as to where we are currently. So we obviously got Castle Coranian now coming in July. Then we've got school budgets on the poverty report at the end of July. It's likely we're going to have to set another meeting early September. I used to discuss this with Marianne and the team because some of the items have dropped down. WESP is one of them. And another one of the school items needs to be moved as well. And so it's as set out there in the agenda is where we currently are. But again, as you rightly say, it could be subject to change because these things can be fluid at times with depending on responses we get back from the public, obviously during consultations.
Yeah, and that's a point I'd reiterate. I know in September we've got 3 proposals that we are looking to be taking in one meeting, but the volume of responses coming into these proposals, we may need to look at whether that is actually viable to do, whether there is enough time there.
Yeah.
The final point I would have is, as Wyn has mentioned, the first proposed thing we are looking at now will be the Castle Coranian proposal. And after this meeting, we will be circulating a link for the current organisation code, and particularly the small schools element of that. And I would be very appreciative if all of you could read through that and familiarise yourself with it, because one of the issues that as a scrutiny we will need to be looking at in respect to the Castle Coranian proposal is whether the proposal and the way it has been managed actually meets the terms of the small schools policy, as that is a named school within that policy. So I'm expecting Wynne to circulate that to you in the next couple of days.
Will do, Chair.
So with that in mind, I move finally, before we close to the close the business, whether anyone has any additional short comments at this point, and then we'll close the formal meeting.
Chairman, there's a committee reflection at the end of the agenda, which has been added now as following on from the Audit Wales review of scrutiny in Powys, and they've asked us, and we think we're including this on all our agendas from here on in, just 5 to 10 minutes for the committee at the very end of the meeting, just to reflect back on the day, look at what's come before you, consider what went well, what didn't go quite according to plan. We'll ignore the technology on this one, because that's an obvious one, and I'll reflect on that one after today. But certainly then, how would we might want to do something different next time? So there's only a couple of minutes just to do this. It's part of our own self-assessment of how things are going and how we can improve scrutiny as we're going along. So I think it's a good time spent, to be honest, Chair.
Thanks for that. I wasn't sure when whether we were doing that in the live session or afterwards, so thanks for the clarity on that. Lucy, I saw your hand go up and now go down. Did you?
That was just what I was going to ask Pete, whether it was part of the live streaming or not.
Wynne, can you clarify? I know Matthew's committee has gone through one of these. Did they do it in public session? Or
we did it in public at the end of the meeting, Chair. It's up to you entirely how you want to do it. But again, it's.
I am quite happy to share it with the public. I just hope some people have got some feedback at this point. It's not like you lot to be shy.
I thought it went all right. Once we got over the glitches, of actually accessing the meeting, the discussion is reasonably open.
Thanks, Bryn.
Yeah, iawn. Wel, mae'n rhywbeth dwi wedi codi efo ti, Cadeirydd, a rhywbeth os ydyn ni hoffi cael ei drafod yn y cyfarfodydd. Ydyn yna eglurder o diffiniadau o categoriau ysgolion. Mae yna dipyn o broblem efo categoriau ysgolion uwchradd. Mae o ran iaith, maen nhw'n cymryd ffigurau mis Medi neu ffigurau sydd wedi projectio i'r dyfodol, a wedyn maen nhw'n eitha gwahanol erbyn i'r ffigurau mis Mawrth, Plasg mis Ionawr dod trwad, sydd yn fwy realistig mae'n debyg, ac bys ni'n licio taser panel scrutiny gallu cymryd amser i cael drafodaeth ar y ffigurau sydd yn pennu ai ydy ysgol yn categori 2, categori 3, categori 2A, 2B, 2C ac yn y blaen. Os allwn ni godi hwnna ar yr agenda yn gweddol fuan, os ni'n diolchgar.
Okay, I think what I'm taking from that, there's some potential for discussion there in terms of briefing, perhaps in advance of us looking at the papers around WESP later in the year, because that would feed into that. Does that sound an appropriate way for us to move forward?
Bydde, yn sicr, achos mae sicr allwch chi ddim cynllunio WESP heb cael data dibynadwy o'r ysgolion uwchradd a sut dyn ni'n beth sydd yn dymunol a beth sydd yn real a sut dyn ni'n symud ymlaen. So, os allwn ni cael o cyn trafod y WESP, bys yna'n wych.
Okay, thanks for that. And that actually reminds me, I've had, whilst Emma is still here, I've had a number of requests in the last few days from other councillors as to what are the actual pupil numbers at each of our different schools at the moment. So it might be beneficial if that was circulated as a statistics briefing for all members.
Yeah, Councillor Pete, we've updated the data that we made available to yourselves and the public from 2019. We've done the 2020 update. So we've got both sets of data. It might be appropriate for us to spend some time again, just revisiting that, going back through the data sets, because it underpins some of the, well, it underpins the transformation. And what we want to do over time is see the shift and the impact of the transformation. It'll be too early to see the impact because obviously we're only just bringing the proposals through, but nevertheless, at least we can understand the numbers, where they are, what's happening on the ground currently. There's obviously some constraints in relation to that, more specifically around the national information that we know hasn't been available due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the 2021 data. There's just a delay in terms of the validation, but nevertheless, we do have more information available to us now than you had on the original set. So more than happy to bring that in. Whilst I have the mic, could I also just remind that at this point of the meeting, it's really about evaluation and reflection of what's been, rather than agenda setting, if I may. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Emma. I'll turn to Margaret.
It links. I think what Emma said has been so helpful, because when you are looking at a specific, like we've done today, you do have to have an understanding of the wider picture. And I think what Emma said will be really helpful when we are looking at specifics, that we do have more in the information she was suggesting.
Thanks for that, Margaret. I will take that away with Wynne for an action to work on a possible briefing for all of us, because I think the one thing I was aware of today is the number of you here who it's your first meeting. And I think it's all too easy to remember that there's some of us been on this committee for 3-4 years now and have got a lot of knowledge, and we need to ensure that everyone is on a level playing field. So I take that away as something that we need to improve before we move too much further into the year. Councillor David.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, my criticism today is that the audio quality I had was dire. A lot of the speakers I couldn't hear. I was just getting interruption and static all the while on the line. I've tried to send an email to Wynne Richards on the chat. My sound quality is poor. I've tried it with and without earphones. Can anything be done? I couldn't even send that message to Wynne Richards. We had the case when Arliss was translating from Bryn. I couldn't understand what she was saying because I was getting Bryn at much the same volume as I was getting Arliss. This is a fault with Zoom. It's not a fault with the individuals. I want to emphasize that. And several speakers, I got more static than anything else from them. Your voice, Chairman, came over very clearly at all times, but other people's didn't on times. And unless this can be improved, I shall be complaining bitterly when one of my local schools come up for closure if I can't hear what has been said in the meeting, because that is a denial of democracy. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, David. I use a mic which is very close to my face. I'm wondering if others are using mics on their laptops, and that is not picking it up so much.
Microphone should be better, Chair, because obviously you should cut out static background noise, because they are sensitive in terms of noise reduction. That's the whole purpose of them being set up. So that's one issue. I'll ask Lauren again, Councillor David, to look at your broadband, because I think there's an issue of connectivity here somewhere. And there may be something else we can discuss outside the meeting in terms of what we can do to help you, but it's some of it. I know we've had issues with translation where if the translator has not closed the mic down, then the second speaker after that would obviously be slightly quieter, which may have been one of the comments I heard earlier on. But normally you should hear Iris louder than the translator, so there's something not right there properly coming through. So I'll look at it again for you, Councillor David, as I have previously. Promised to keep going until we see if we can crack this for you.
Did anyone else have similar problems? I know I made the comment that Wynne has just referenced.
Yes, Chairman, I did have a couple of issues where I couldn't hear terribly well. Can I make a suggestion that perhaps you ask all members that come in at the next session that we have and all wear their earphones and see if that makes a difference? So, Margaret's shaking her head. She probably hasn't got a set.
It's certainly the preferred option. If somebody hasn't got a set, please let me know.
Well, obviously, Margaret hasn't because she's shaking her head there.
Yeah. Okay. We'll sort that.
Perhaps, Wynne, if you could circulate to all members and say, have you got
a
headphone? If you haven't, we'll get you one.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Kath. Claire?
Can I just, thanks, Chair, can I just reiterate what Councillor David said? I had real difficulty in hearing the translator and I haven't got a headset, so that may help, but there were a few issues with actually hearing the speakers at certain times throughout the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will pass those back to you, Wynne.
Yes, no problem, Chair. I'll get it set out to you, Claire, as well.
Oh, thanks. But I can pick them up if you want to save postage.
I think it's easier if we post them to you.
Okay,
Okay, Michael, you had a hand up and then not.
No, the hand up was an error on my part, Chair.
Fair enough. My main observation from today is that it's a self-criticism, actually. When we did the Brohuzgin session, I went through the paper and picked out all of the issues that I'd highlighted and then circulated it round. But for varying reasons, I didn't do that today. And my feeling is that as a result, I wasn't quite as well structured in I wasn't quite as well set up in structuring the meeting today. So I felt we didn't do quite as good a job as we did with Brohuzgin on this one. So that's something I'm going to take away when we come in advance of the other appointments. Does anyone have any final comments? Councillor Cath.
Sorry, just a one. I was just wondering, as you rightly said, that we have got a number of new members. I'm newish myself, although I've been around education for quite a number of years. Would it be an idea to have a half an hour or so session, trying to bring everybody up to speed with what's happening?
That's what I'm going to talk to Wynne about. I was thinking exactly.
Got in your mind?
Yeah, particularly when Emma was talking about the data.
Yeah.
I'd always had in mind with remote working that we would after the AGM meeting have a session in private where everyone was brought up to date on the latest information.
Yeah.
For catch
Especially
up,
with all the closures and all that sort of stuff that's going on and all the consultations.
just for as you say, a catch up briefing so that everyone knows, and also things like the data where it's been updated. And I'm not sure when we are going to be able to fit that into the diary, but it needs to be fairly soon.
I would have thought so. Yeah.
Okay, in which case we were scheduled for an hour. after all the delays, we've managed to come in on an hour 5 with our discussion. So thank you ever so much for your support today. And I look forward to seeing you all at either full council, another committee meeting, or our next scrutiny session